Hi, welcome to my video. This is part one of a two-part tutorial on creating and processing 360-degree virtual reality images and small planets. I will be using a DJI Inspire One, Litchi app, Autopano Pro software and Photoshop. In part one, I'll be showing you how to capture the images using the Litchi app and your drone. And then in part two, we'll show how to process those images in Autopano Pro and Photoshop to get the final images that you require. Once you've got your drone all set up and ready to go with your pre-flight checks done, it's time to take off and head over to the area where you want to capture your 360. From now on, we'll mostly look at it through the Litchi app so that you can see what's going on through the software. And we're just heading over to a disused quarry, which is local to my local flying site. And that's where we're going to capture a 360. So I've now arrived roughly in position of where I want to do my 360. I'm just going to take a look around, reposition the drone a little bit, get it exactly where I want it for the images that I want. Once you get in a new position, or where you think you are, where you want to be, just do a pirouette, have a look around, check out what your final 360 image is going to look like. Then it's time to check the camera settings, obviously set your exposure. Normally I shoot on manual, but I've actually left it on auto for this one, and it exposure compensates, but the software's fine with it for sorting it out on the other side when processing. So another quick look around. And once we're settled in the Litchi app, click in the top left hand corner. It will show you a menu and select Pano. Then in the bottom left, select Pano settings. This will bring up the panorama settings menu. First of all, you have the option of how many rows you'd like to collect. I normally collect 5. This gives loads of pictures as a final result. The Inspire One with the X3 camera can actually complete a 360 in 3 rows. But by collecting 5, you have plenty of detail and data. You can delete some of the images if you don't want them later, or you can use them for adjustments and alignment to make sure that your 360 VR or little planet has got all the details in the right place. The second option down is the top row angle. This entirely depends on how much sky you wish to collect. And you base this decision on whether you're going to use the genuine sky of your scene or whether you're going to replace the sky with another image later on. I tend to try and keep the genuine sky and just fill in the blank at the top. So I'll always set this to its maximum and collect a top row of 30 degrees. But you can set it as low as 0 if you're intending on fabricating the sky later on. The next one down is photos per row. Again, for the same reason on the rows, I select 8 so that it collects more images than I need. The Inspire One with the X3 camera can actually do a full 360 with only 5 frames. But again, it gives the option to delete some or record extra detail that we may need later on when processing. The next option down is width, 360 degrees. If you only want to do a 180 degree panorama, that's fine, obviously lower it. But for little planets and full 360 degree virtual reality, you need this set to 360 degrees. The next option down is nadirs. What this actually stands for, I don't know. I've looked in the documentation and I can't find any explanation as to what it stands for, but essentially it's the number of downward facing photos that you require. I normally take one, you only need one. Quite often I won't even use that one, but it's good to have the downward facing detail just in case you do need it. What you can't see, which is off screen at the moment, I should have scrolled down, is the next option down is mode. You can choose between aircraft rotation and gimbal rotation. Both have their pros and cons. Aircraft rotation, which is the mode that I use, rotates the aircraft for every column of photos that it takes. It does make the position of the aircraft less accurate, but you don't get the aircraft body in any of the photos. If you choose gimbal rotation, the positional accuracy of the aircraft is better. However, for a lot of the photos, especially if you're collecting a high top row, will have the body of the aircraft and the legs in it. So I always choose aircraft rotation, but there may be times where gimbal rotation would be better, especially sort of, for example, at a high altitude. Gimbal rotation will work fairly well because you'll still collect a lot of sky and get all your ground detail without having to have a high top row angle to get the sky. The next option after that, which you can't see, is capture strategy. You can choose between column by column and row by row. Essentially, this depicts the order in which it takes the photos. If you choose row by row, you'll get lots of aircraft rotations. If you choose column by column, the aircraft will only move 8 times. I've found that doing column by column works better because there's less movement on the aircraft, which makes stitching the image together at the end easier. But if you have sort of fast moving items, people in your lower frame or fast moving clouds in your upper frame, row by row is the better way to go, because it captures the images one after the other for each row. So any sort of movement in the fine detail is easier to stitch together because it doesn't move as much between the photos. Then after that, you have 2 more settings. You have the wait time before each photo and the wait time after each photo. On the Inspire One, you can set these to 0. It settles almost instantly after it's turned. I set them to 0.1 just to give it a tiny bit of time to settle, but I've not actually noticed any difference between the two. Before you start your panorama, you need to change the flight mode from PGPS to FGPS. This is done with the switch on the top left corner of your controller. The panorama won't start until it's in FGPS mode. You can now click on Start to start the panorama. In this case, it's brought up a warning that says the aircraft is currently hovering at low altitude. This is because for this particular 360, to get the view that I wanted, I had to lower the aircraft into the quarry, which was actually lower than my starting altitude. Select Go, and then Litchi will start the panorama and take control of the aircraft. It will tilt the camera through the 5 rows that we've set, and then it will move the aircraft round to the next of the 8 columns and then work its way up the next column. It then does this in turn, goes down a column, up a column, down a column until it's finished. The aircraft is fairly precise with its movements, but does show some drift during the panorama. And here you can see it continuing to take the images and continuing to rotate until it's collected all the images. This does take a few minutes, but I'm going to leave it playing in real time so you can get an idea of how long it does actually take to capture the images for one of these panoramas. Once the last image is taken, the camera returns to where it started. Panorama ended then comes up on the screen. On this flight, I did actually then raise altitude and take a second panorama from much higher up, but we'll just quickly zoom through that and then return back to base. So the aircraft's now safely back at base. The memory card contains the photos from a 360-degree panorama, 41 photos. And in part 2, I'll show you how to transfer them photos onto your computer, then process them in Autopano Pro, then pop them into Photoshop to fill in the missing parts of the sky that the camera couldn't capture because the aircraft's in the way. If you like what you've seen so far, consider following me on social media. All the links are in the description below. Links to all the software that I'm using are also in the description below. If you'd like to see more work or support my work, I'm also on Patreon. There's a link to that in the description below as well. Thanks for watching, and I'm going to get working on part 2 to bring to you shortly.